All right, future business leaders of Appalachian State, welcome. Today, we're going to move way beyond just the textbook definitions. We're going to treat marketing research as what it really is, a core professional competency. It's the engine that's driving all the big strategic decisions in the data-rich world we live in now. So let's kick things off with a question about a local giant, Lowe's, headquartered right here in our backyard in North Carolina. How do they seem to know you need deck screws even before you do? Well, it's not magic, I can tell you that. It is the meticulous, careful application of marketing research. And this is how modern corporations take raw data and turn it into real, strategic action. So here's our game plan. We're going to tackle 5 key areas, and you'll notice they line up perfectly with your course's learning objectives. We're going to build your expertise here, one step at a time. Okay, first things first, let's really dig into the why. Because before you can even think about using the tools of marketing research, you've got to have a rock-solid understanding of its fundamental purpose in a business. So when you see this definition, don't just think of it as some academic exercise you have to memorize. Think of it as the engine for gathering critical business intelligence. We're talking about the information that isn't just lying around, the stuff you have to go out and get, because it's absolutely crucial for success. And what this all boils down to is this. The real value of marketing research is measured by one thing: how much it improves your ability to make good decisions. It's all about turning that raw information into actionable insights that, actually drive revenue and make the company more profitable. All right, moving on. As a strategist, and that's what you're training to be, you're going to face a fundamental choice right at the beginning of any research project. You have to ask, am I just exploring an issue here, or am I looking for a definitive final answer? And here they are, the 2 main paths you can take. Are you in that early exploratory phase, where the problem is kind of fuzzy and you're just trying to understand it better? Or are you at a critical decision point where you absolutely need conclusive data to make a big, high-stakes call? Now, this table really gets into the nitty-gritty, the tactical differences. I want you to look at things like sample size, the data collection methods, and how the analysis is done. These are the real-world decisions you'll be making as a project lead. You'll see that exploratory research is often smaller scale, more qualitative, interviews, focus groups. Conclusive research, on the other hand, demands that structured, quantitative approach so you can generalize your findings to a larger population. Okay, so we've talked about the what. Now, let's get into the how. We're going to walk through the systematic process, the playbook, that ensures your research is reliable, valid, and, this is the most important part, actually actionable. And here it is. This is the roadmap for pretty much any research project you will ever run. It's a 5-step process. Now, for our purposes today, we're really going to zero in on one critical stage. Step 3, collecting the data. So, primary data, this is the stuff you gather yourself, from scratch, for the specific project you're working on right now. The huge benefit is that it's tailored exactly to your needs, which is amazing. But, and this is a big but, it's a much more resource-intensive process. We're talking more time, more money, and a lot more complexity. Secondary data, on the other hand, is data that's already out there. Somebody else has already collected it. Think about government census reports, industry analyses, or even your own company's internal sales figures. And I'll tell you, the data collection phase almost always begins right here, simply because it's so much faster and cheaper. But what happens when that secondary data just doesn't cut it, when it doesn't answer your specific question? Well, that's when you have to turn to primary data. And a lot of the time, that means surveys. So the big question then becomes, which survey method is the right tool for your specific job? This table is fantastic because it lays out the strategic trade-offs you have to weigh. So put yourself in this role. Imagine you're a brand manager over at Hanes Brands. This is exactly the kind of analysis you'd be doing. Do we go with a cheap and fast online survey, or do we need the flexibility of a more in-depth, maybe mall intercept study? And that flexibility is key because with personal interviews, you can actually show people prototypes or dig deeper for those really nuanced responses you can't get from a checkbox. And the trade-offs just keep coming. Look at this. Personal interviews are great, but you run the risk of introducing interviewer bias. At the same time, they're really effective at getting people to actually participate. On the flip side, a mail survey completely eliminates that bias. But good luck getting a decent response rate or ensuring your sample is truly representative. See? Every single choice you make has strategic consequences. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the technology that's really defining the modern marketing research landscape. These are the tools and concepts that are completely transforming how we gather and analyze data. So, big data. You hear this term all the time. It's basically the raw material of modern research. A perfect example is Charlotte-based Bank of America. Think about it. They analyze millions upon millions of transactions every single day. Why? To understand customer behavior, spot new market trends, and, of course, detect fraud. Now, if big data is the raw material, then marketing analytics is the professional skill. It's the competency of taking all that raw data and turning it into a real strategic advantage. This is where you use things like predictive modeling to translate that chaos of big data into smarter, more effective campaigns and a measurable ROI. And get this, research has actually shown that even a small increase in using analytics can lead to a significant jump in a company's return on assets. We're talking an 8% increase. This slide does a great job of showing the two sides of the big data coin. On one hand, it gives companies like Lowe's a massive competitive advantage, right? It lets them predict what you're going to buy. But on the other hand, it raises some really serious privacy concerns. And that brings us perfectly to our final and maybe the most important section. Look, having all the data and the fancy analytical tools, that's only half the battle. As a marketing professional, you have an absolute obligation to operate within a strict ethical and global framework. And let me be clear, these are not just suggestions. These are professional mandates. They are non-negotiable. The trust of your customers is the single most valuable asset you have, and you have to protect it at all costs, whether you're doing research right here in Boone or across completely different cultures around the world. This quote from your textbook really nails the central ethical problem of the big data era. It's a paradox, really. The exact same data that lets a company offer you incredibly personalized services can also be used to discriminate against customers who don't seem valuable enough. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that data gives you power, a lot of power. And with that power comes an immense amount of professional responsibility. Your career, your reputation, it won't just be defined by how good you are with spreadsheets and models. It will be defined by the ethical judgment you show when you use them. So I'll leave you with this question. The data says you can do something. The code of ethics says you shouldn't. As a marketing leader, what's your call? This is the kind of dilemma that separates a student from a true strategic leader. It's the exact moment where the principles of marketing become your professional practice.